Is anyone else sick and tired of Superman being a not at all subtle remake of Jesus' story from Christianity? This guy sends his son down to the humans where he's raised as a blue-collar, salt-of-the-earth laborer, and he uses his extraordinary abilities to help the Earthlings. Then the bad guy, the dad vanished, comes back to face off against the son. The son dies and comes back. All that's missing is Jimmy Olsen getting paid 30 pieces of silver to let the US government into the Fortress of Solitude to kill Superman. When you've had 80 years of Superman stories, some of the finer details won't match up, but it's clear what the architects of the Man of Tomorrow have been doing over the decades, and I am done with it. I'm a nice Christian man myself. I don't have a problem with including Christian themes in fiction, like your Chronicles of Narnia type stories. Sometimes it can get laughably heavy-handed, but on paper, I don't have a problem with it. So why do I take issue with it with Superman? The guys who created Superman, Jerry Siegel and Joe Shuster, were Jewish. There are a lot of indelible parts of the Superman mythos that did not come from Siegel and Shuster, so to say that an aspect of the Superman mythos didn't originate with them and should therefore go away, that's preposterous. Bob Kane's original concept of Batman, it resembles 0% of what we know of Batman today, and we're better for it. But it's gross that this character these guys intended to embody the Jewish experience at the time, immigration from another place where your family might have been in danger, taking with you basically nothing but the clothes on your back, making a new life for yourself in this new world, that this character has now gotten away from that and instead encapsulates everything about New Testament Christianity, which, as I understand it, is the stuff the Jewish faith doesn't practice or believe in. Instead of sticking with the Christian overtones that have been prevalent for longer than I've been alive, it'd be cool to see Superman take on some of the aspects of the Jewish lore that have fallen away from his mythos since the 1940s. What if when the bottle city of Kandor is re-enlarged, Superman has to lead the Kandorians to a new planet on an extended trip, maybe 40 years, and something grand happens and he dies to save his people, who go on to find a new home that he doesn't get to set foot on. Or he does make it to the new world, they settle in, then he tries to warn the population to stay away from whatever decadent behavior might attract an enemy species to their front door. A mirror to Jor-El, who wanted the Kryptonians to go to other worlds and push the boundaries, and he was told no by the Council. Clark wants his fellow Kryptonians to stay quiet, don't attract attention. They get captured by an alien army and taken to another world, and you do the story of the captivity of Jerusalem with Daniel and Nebuchadnezzar. This would be where Superman's innate goodness can be put to the test, since he's not a protector anymore, but a second-class citizen looked down upon by the rest of this society, so standing up for what he believes in could very well get him killed. These ideas would be more elseworldy than what would work in the main continuity, but it would sure be neat to see that play out. If you don't want to break continuity and you want Clark on Earth, there could be ways you could bring more of an Old Testament vibe to his series than what we've seen. Clark losing his powers when around Kryptonite, maybe you could do some kind of weird status quo changing event in the series where he loses his powers in different circumstances now, and you could find a way to mirror Samson. Depending on if Superman is married this week or not, maybe Maxima is trying to seduce Superman to be her lover, and that reduces him to a mere mortal, at least temporarily. I don't know, maybe that one's kind of silly. Or in the Book of Samuel, David temporarily fled his homeland and worked with the Philistines, the enemies of his people. I don't know how you would do it, but what if Superman is somehow banished to the Phantom Zone and has to work with the Kryptonian criminals in the Phantom Zone against some greater threat for an extended time, as he's no longer welcome on Earth? It doesn't have to be literal adaptations of stories from the Bible like what we've seen over the decades and what I've suggested so far. It could be more of a subtle vibe you thread throughout a run. Joe Casey wrote Superman as a pacifist in the early 2000s. That's an interesting idea, since Superman is the Man of Tomorrow, so having him express new ideas about how he does things is cool, even if it might make telling stories in an action-based superhero comic difficult. But if you're subtle about it, you can include some of the more spiritual aspects of Judaism into Superman's methodology, and you could find some interesting story avenues to explore. I'm by no means an expert, but the idea of forgiveness in the Jewish faith is more complex than "do you forgive me?" Sure. It involves more of a one-on-one dialogue, and stuff that could be very interesting to see Superman represent. What if Lex Luthor is in prison indefinitely, and Superman visits him once a week because he believes there's some element of good in Lex that can be nurtured and brought to the forefront, but also Superman feels he failed Lex in some way, and he needs to atone for that too. People are always complaining that Superman is too pure, but he's just a guy. Let him make mistakes sometimes, and show that he's an aspirational figure we can look up to when he tries to atone for those mistakes. But I don't think returning Superman to the more Jewish portrayal Siegel and Shuster intended is the only way to go if you're going to infuse religion into the character. There are a lot of religions out there besides Christianity and Judaism. You don't have to limit yourself to one, but borrow heavily from all of them. In Hinduism, there's the Mahabharata, this gigantic epic about these two massive families at war for the throne, with the Krypton TV series showing the family families of Zod and El have been intertwined much further back than just the general and Superman's dad, draw some inspiration from that. The families of Zod and El have constantly struggled. Sometimes the Els are more righteous, sometimes the Zods have more of a valid point. And with Zod's coup against the Kryptonian Council essentially being all about controlling the fate of Krypton, and Jor-El's more maverick leanings also being about protecting the future of the planet, this germ of being inspired by the Mahabharata is already there. I don't know what's going on with anything at DC Comics these days, but a few reboots ago, General Zod had a son in the Phantom Zone, and I think Clark and Lois still have a son. So you could find some ideological way to continue this feud of these lineages. Or you don't have to do any religious allegory and adaptation at all. There are some people who say Superman is better when he's just an alien who punches robots. That's fine too. But I don't think these attempts to bring something heavier into the character are going to go away. If you are going to keep doing this, at least try something new. This might not work with what's currently going on in the comics, but it'd be interesting to see. Even if you did it in continuity, you can always let things snap back to the way they were before. Those are my thoughts on Superman and religion. I hope you guys liked this video, and if you did, check out some of the other stuff I do around here. Until next time, have a good one.